Hi, everybody. This is Jessica Canty. I am your life and career strategist, and I am thrilled to have a lunchtime lingo with you. This conversation with this subject matter expert is one that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited and thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you all today. Why? Because coming up this Sunday is Mother's Day. And I know a lot of us are thinking about how we're going to celebrate our moms. Maybe you purchased gifts, maybe you've shipped gifts over. You might even do a drive-by Happy Mother's Day in light of what's taking place in our community. But there's a specific portion of the community that I want to be able to address. And here is our expert joining us right now. I'm thrilled. She's coming on in the room. This is Miss Natalie Facey. Hi, Natalie. Hello, gorgeous. Okay, so I was just talking a little bit about just giving a brief background to everybody. Let me kind of move this back just a tad bit so you can see more than just the bottom half of my face. Uh-oh. I'm still here. All right. Well, I was saying that I'm excited about this conversation because, most specifically, this conversation is near and dear to my heart. And I want to start off our conversation with introducing myself, introducing our speaker, and then why this conversation is so very critical for today. So, first, if this is the first time we're meeting, hi, I'm Jessica Canty, and I'm your life and career strategist. Now, what does that mean? That means I have a passion for helping people go from unfulfilled jobs to their dream careers. And one of the things I'm able to do, I'm fortunate to do, is to work with Swag Her Magazine to bring wonderful conversations to you all. And so this conversation is one of those things. One of the things I've noticed when I work with my clients is that sometimes they may have mindset hurdles because of traumas they may have experienced or non-serving mantras that they keep in their minds. And so that's why this conversation is thrilling to me. That gorgeous face you see right there, her name is Miss Natalie Facey. And I'm going to tell you how I know this girl. I'm a brag on her a bit, okay? First of all, one of the most amazing spirits I've ever had an opportunity to come in contact with. Why do I say this? First of all, she's an entrepreneur, okay? This lady right here you see in front of you, she has a 9 to 5 and a 5 to 9. And her entrepreneurial efforts is about healing, all about healing those in our community, most specifically a specific portion of our community. We're going to get to that in a moment. But the reason why I thought about Natalie is because I said to you all, on Sunday, this coming Sunday is Mother's Day. And a lot of us will be celebrating Mother's Day in different ways, especially in the pandemic. Some of us are going to be doing those drive-by celebrations I've been seeing all over the internet. Some of you might be sending a gift to mom, maybe sending a meal to mom. But there's some specific moms that I want to make sure that we don't forget this Mother's Day. What type of mom am I talking about? How does this connect to Natalie? I want to talk about the moms who've experienced infant and maternity loss. And that's why I have this subject matter expert, this guru, this expert, whatever title, this well-versed expert with us today, because she specializes in helping women who've experienced infant and maternity loss. And I bragged about her just for a little bit, but I want her to introduce herself to you because I can't wait to get into this conversation. All right, Natalie. Introduce yourself
Oh
to the
my
people.
gosh, I'm blushing all over right now.
Everything I said was true.
Thank you for doing this.
So go ahead and tell people who you are, Natalie.
Yes, your introduction was amazing. Hey everyone, so excited to be here with you. My name is Natalie Facey. I am originally from Jamaica, if you're hearing a Caribbean accent. I now live in NYC, the Big Apple, with my husband. As Jessica mentioned, I work with women who have experienced pregnancy or infant loss, also women who are going through infertility. Hi! And the reason why I do that is because that has been my experience as well, going through a pregnancy loss and then going through an infant loss with an infant that was born prematurely. So this has essentially been my life's work. I was a coach before going through those losses. I was working with people on self-compassion, self-care, resilience, because this has just always been an interest of mine. But I've now transitioned that work to work specifically with women who've experienced loss because I know what that experience is.
Mm, mm. Natalie, I just really appreciate you being so very transparent
Mm.
because as a society, we can kind of make it a taboo to talk about
Mhm.
loss, but most
Yeah.
specifically infant and maternity loss. And I'm just curious, why do you think that is? Why do you think people like? Why is it a hush hush subject? Why do you think that is, Natalie?
I love that you're asking that. I think it's a hush hush subject because of the expectation that we have that as women, our bodies are supposed to know naturally how to do this thing, right? Our bodies were made to give birth. And so if that doesn't work, if we don't follow that expectation, then there is shame. So as a woman, there's shame within yourself for not being able to fulfill what you think those expectations are. But I think on a broader level, on a societal level, we don't really know how to deal with death, you know, and I often repeat this quote, whatever we can't see, we can't heal. And so, one, we don't like facing death. And two, we don't have the ability to face the death of something that feels unnatural for us. So, you know, a baby 9 months later after you conceive, become pregnant, then you have a baby. So because that doesn't follow the expectation, it's like we don't have the language and the capacity to speak to that. And so we just like hide it in the corner of like shame and regret and guilt and all of these negative emotions without having the tools to handle it.
Hmm. And that's it's such an isolating experience. If you don't
Mhm.
know how to express, this is a loss that I've experienced. How do I share that with my family? And then even more so, if our family and friends don't have the words to express it, they recognize that that's something that you have experienced. So Natalie, tell me a little bit about how you help people with that, because that's a lot to have on your shoulders, especially if you
Mhm.
want to have another baby. Can you tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about what? Absolutely. So can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. I I'll go back to like my history and I'll speak specifically to my experience between pregnancy number one and pregnancy number two. So after having the miscarriage in pregnancy number one, I was educating myself on my body, like how my body works and like what to expect the next time around. And so I felt so empowered in my body. I could advocate for myself because I knew that I had that choice. So because I empowered myself, because I was asking for help from friends and family, because I showed up differently, there's just more power in that entire experience. And I recognize that as something that women need as they're going through, whether this is their very first pregnancy or pregnancy after loss. I recognize that as, you know, in order for women to feel empowered and go through this process, they need support, they need community, they need education to know that, hey, you can advocate for yourself, you can ask these questions so that you're getting the answers that you need. And there's actually a relationship between your mind and your body that helps your body and your baby to be stronger. And so having learned all of those things between the two pregnancies and after the last pregnancy, I just knew that I had to be able to share that with others so that the experiences that I went through, they didn't have to go through those challenging experiences. So how I work with women is I created this program called Coaching for Birth Warriors. And it's empowering. It's like uplifting because like this is fighting, you know? It's like a peaceful kind of fighting, but you need to have the resilience to be able to go through a pregnancy after loss. And let's say that you decide not to become pregnant, you need to have the resilience to decide that this thing isn't going to break me, like this experience isn't an experience that is going to, you know, keep me to the ground. Like I am going to rise up. I am going to tell my story and I'm going to help others who are on a similar journey to be able to rise up as well. And so it's your birth warrior. If you have decided that, you know, your experience of loss or infertility or whatever it is isn't going to break you, isn't going to keep you down. And so I guide women through that process. I help them to create a birth warrior tribe. So that can be the doctors and the nurses that they're working with, learning how to have those people be on their side. It could be their partner or other family members, but learning how do I get the tribe around me that I need to have around me? How do I get the support that I need to have around me to go through this really scary process again, because there's so much anxiety and fear in a pregnancy after loss, or a pregnancy when you've been told that you're infertile, right?
Mm.
The other thing that I do is I help women to understand that after going through an experience that is really challenging, if you haven't processed that experience, if you haven't resolved that experience, then there's actually trauma and emotional pain that is living in your body. Like, it's in your body. And if you're deciding to become pregnant again, do you want to be the host of this new life where there's like old stuff in your body? No. Like, you want this baby to come through a body that has removed all of that old energy, all of the fear, all of that pain that you carried throughout the previous pregnancy or throughout the previous loss. So I teach women how to do that. And I also go through a process called somatic therapy of releasing those old emotions and releasing that pain from the body. And then the other part of the program is kind of a wild card, because different women, based on their experience, it could be that they're afraid of going into the hospital, because in most cases, the trauma was experienced in the hospital, in the delivery, right? When someone didn't treat you right, someone said something inappropriate, or just the process of releasing the baby from your body was traumatic. And so some women are uncomfortable going back into the hospital. So if that's the main fear, that's what we work on. For others, it might be that there are challenges in the relationship. If that's the issue, then that's what we work on. So it's really kind of clearing the pathway, all of the things that can come between you and giving birth to your next baby, or you and giving birth to the life that you want to have. It's clearing the pathway for those things.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
Natalie, you're getting so much love on this side. I don't know if you can see it, but there's hearts going, and
I feel
someone is
passionate about this.
yes, over and over I'm getting that this is a great conversation. This is good conversation. But what I really want to say to you is that someone said, yes, Birth Warrior Tribe. I was like, yes. See, Natalie, like, she was really strategic about the language. Like, she is someone who's passionate and understands that this is a sensitive subject, but yet there's empowerment to be had in this experience. And so I can personally attest to the fact that she is strategic about the words she used. She is very caring about this experience. It's not just because she's gone through the experience, because a lot of us have gone through it, and I'll raise my hand and say I've gone through it as well. But she has a heart for people, and so if this is something that you've realized you've gone through, or something someone else has gone through in your life and in your sphere of influence, it's really important that you connect them with Natalie. Someone said she experienced it. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. We have a member of the audience who experienced a miscarriage 30 years ago. And I'm so grateful that you decided to share that with us, because again, what we said is that it's typically a hush-hush situation. And a lot of times people don't want to talk about it because it's draining, because it's depressing to them, or they're afraid to see you cry because tears are icky things that they don't want to touch. And so it's important that we have that community. And that's why I want to brag a little bit more about Natalie, because when she said the Birth Warriors Tribe, she has a variety of resources to help you in your healing process. So she has that one-on-one coaching piece to help you in your unique challenge. The other thing is she's got the podcast. So maybe you're in a space that you're trying to figure out, okay, what are my next best steps? And I'm not quite sure what I should do. You want to make sure you subscribe to her podcast and subscribe to her blog. She has an email that goes out and is encouraging. So we really want you to connect with Natalie in that way. We want you to connect with her. And if you missed any part of this conversation, which we're not ending right now because we're just getting to the good stuff, I really want to make sure that you will hit the replay on this, because this will be on Swag Her Magazine stories, and it also will be on their YouTube channel. And if you like what you hear, let Swag Her Magazine know. Bring Natalie back, because Natalie, I feel like we're just scratching the surface with this conversation. I just had a conversation with a girlfriend last night, and I was like, I can't wait to talk to Natalie about this today on the live. So, so Natalie, let me turn that back around. I think I hit the wrong button. Sorry. Okay, there it is. Okay, so Natalie, we talked a little bit about how you help people. Unique to this time of year, Sunday is Mother's Day.
Mhm.
And so for some of us, Mother's Day is a thrill and excitement. You've gone out, you bought the balloons.
Yeah.
Some of us, you've gone out, bought mom flowers. Even in kindergarten, we made mom a macaroni and necklace that was still had glue dripping on it. But we all wanted to celebrate moms. But unique to this experience, in this time of year, are moms who are experiencing Mother's Day and their child is no longer with them, not physically with them. And I wanted to
Mhm.
get your expertise around what do you think about celebrating those moms? How do those moms celebrate themselves? And then how do
Yeah.
people around them celebrate them? And then
Mhm.
also, we have a question. I think if I'm saying this right, Malaya Speaks says, do you have a support group? Yes, 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 she does. And I can't wait for her to give you the details. But before you forget, you want to definitely
Yeah.
check out her page and email. So Natalie, go ahead and tell them about the support group because I will type that in the chat and then we'll talk about Mother's Day.
Yeah, yeah. So it's less of a support group in the traditional support group, and I have facilitated support groups before. I would say that it's the Birth Warrior Tribe. So if you go on Facebook or on my Instagram page, actually, you'll see the link to my it's a private Facebook group, and you do receive support in that group from me and from others within the group, but it's essentially having your own space to just be you outside of the comparison of the world, outside of the expectations. So look for the Birth Warriors on Facebook, or just head into my Instagram, the links within my profile, and you'll be able to join the private Facebook group.
Absolutely. So you can head over, you can hit on the link and say, I want to join that Birth Warrior tribe. And the thing is, you don't have to
Mhm.
be someone who is experienced infant or maternity loss to go get information, to go find out how you can help those who've experienced it, to find out exactly how to connect with Natalie and connect those who
Mhm.
need her services. Okay, so Natalie,
Yeah.
let's talk about this. It's Mother's Day. Um,
You.
what do we do for people who've experienced infant and maternity loss?
Yeah. I love that you're asking this question because it's so important. I'm working on a new podcast on triggers and how to deal with triggers. And so I reached out to my same private Facebook group and I asked the members, what are things that have been triggering you? And one person told me this morning that Mother's Day triggers her because she isn't acknowledged, because no one says to her, I'm thinking of you, Happy Mother's Day.
My God.
So just just pregnancy loss. 1 in 4 women experience pregnancy loss. And how I typically describe this is, I'm on the New York, or I used to be on the New York City subway often before we were all under quarantine, right? And let's say that there's a seat of 4 women. One of those people have experienced pregnancy loss. Like that's how small it is. You're driving in a car with 4 people, 4 women. One of those people have or will experience pregnancy loss. And so this number is huge. And so either you know someone who's experienced a loss, either you are that person, or there are very few degrees of separation. And so just make the effort to reach out to someone to let them know that you're thinking of them. I know that the fear often, if you haven't experienced loss, is that you're going to trigger that person or make them uncomfortable. But I can almost guarantee you that most people want to be recognized. Most people want their experience to be validated. And so simply reach out. If you don't buy them something, simply send them a message and say, I am thinking of you today. Know that I love you. Know that I care for you. You know? So for the person who has experienced the loss, what I would say is that you are a mother. You don't have to wonder whether or not you should be acknowledged. You are a mother, you know? So science now shows that the instinct of mothering or parenting, it kicks in before the baby's here. Like for some women, it kicks in even before they conceive. Like they are praying for that baby. They are like writing letters to that baby. And once you know that you've conceived, like you're rubbing your tummy, you're eating well, you're taking care of your body. That is mothering, that's parenting. It's the love and the nurturing that you have for your baby. Like it's almost making me emotional. Like
Mhm.
if we think of mothering as that thing, then we don't separate those people who have a living baby with them versus those who have become pregnant, those who are going through the process of nurturing themselves and their baby, and their experience at the end was just a different one, right?
Mhm.
So that is motherhood. And so I just want to let all of those people know you are mothers, you know, but your experience of motherhood is different. If there is someone who is in the army and away from their children, their experience of parenting and mothering is different. If your child is in boarding school or studying abroad, your child isn't physically here, so your experience of mothering and parenting is different. Um, if you've had an adult child and the child passed away, it doesn't now make you not a mother, right? Your
Mhm.
experience with that child is different. So I'm just going to state that, just like clear the air.
Yeah, so important. So
That's
important.
the first thing. And then just getting that out of the way that you are in fact a mother, the next thing to decide is how is it that you want to celebrate. If you
Mm.
don't want to celebrate, that's totally up to you. Like, you know, like the song goes, it's my party and I can cry if I want to. Like you get to do whatever you want to do. If you want to wake up and brew yourself some tea and write a letter to your babies, write a letter to, you know, the divine God, whatever you call that force, you get to do that. um, if you want to ask someone to honor you, you get to do that. So what I've done is I've asked my husband to make me breakfast. I was like, babe, Sunday's Mother's Day. And he was like, okay. Then I was like, can you make me breakfast? He was like, okay, what do you want? And
Mhm.
so now I get my favorite breakfast on Sunday because I asked for what I want. I asked for him to honor me in that way, you know?
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
asking for what you want. And if you want to spend the time to honor yourself in any way that you want to do that, you can do that. It's your day.
Absolutely. And Natalie,
Mhm.
the way you explain the statistic, it just really drives the point home that
Mhm.
this is something that we should be talking about in the public space because so many people are experiencing it. And so many
Mhm.
people are commenting and showing love on this side.
Mhm.
Never thought about writing a letter. I can identify with this topic. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you so much for, yes. And yet,
Mhm.
you know what? The interesting thing about grief and loss is that a lot of times people get uncomfortable when you're grieving because they want to know
Mhm.
when are you going to be finished grieving? When can I be comfortable around you? But the truth of the
Yeah.
matter is that loss is going to follow us throughout our lives. Now, how we grieve might be different
Mhm.
because that person is no longer physically with us, but that loss is
Yeah.
going to continue for the rest of our lives. So,
Mhm.
so anyone tells you to get over the grief and loss, that's not something you want to share that person.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So you want to be able to think about this. So, Natalie, I know that one of the things that the nurse said to me when I was leaving the hospital after we lost our
Mhm.
youngest daughter was that people are
Mhm.
going to say things to you that they think are healing, but they might
Mhm.
upset you. They may sound
Mhm.
ignorant. What
Mhm.
advice do you give to people who are about to hear some things, maybe on Mother's
Mhm.
Day, like you're not a mom, or when are you going to be over it? It's been how many years now? What do you
Yeah.
suggest to them?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I hope and pray that nobody hears that.
Hmm.
I just hope that nobody hears those ugly things. Um, a couple of things come to mind. The first is a quote that you don't get your organic milk from the gas station or something like that. So, you know where to find the kind of support that you need. Know
Ah.
who people are that you need to surround yourself with to get the love that you deserve. You know, if
Hmm.
there's someone who doesn't have the capacity to hold you in a space of love and compassion, they don't need to be in your circle. Like they don't need to be a part of your tribe, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but if it so happens that you do encounter someone who says something really uncomfortable and really inappropriate, then there are a couple of ways to approach it. My I try to see people with love. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. So if someone says something to me that I don't like, I try to process it within myself and try to figure out what kind of space is this person in that they would say something like that. I
Mm.
believe that for someone who doesn't have love for themselves, there's no way they share love for me. Like if they don't have it within themselves, like where are they going to get it to give to me? And so when I hear something that's really unkind, really inappropriate, I hear that as, oh, that's just what you can, that's all you can give me. Like that's what's inside of you right now in this moment. And so that's all you have to give me. That's all you have. Yeah. And how you can respond to it in that moment is you can ignore them, like just silence. Don't respond to the thing if they reach out on Facebook or whatever. If it's an in-person conversation, you might just don't respond to that. And then once you process it, once you're in a better place, then you can go back to them and say, you know what? That really hurt me because this is how I see myself as a person, or this is how I see myself as a mother. And you get to decide if you continue with that relationship or if that's someone that you remove from your space.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I like that you said that, Natalie. Because sometimes people can say it purposefully, and then sometimes it can
Mhm.
just be out of ignorance, not knowing
Yeah.
what to say. So they'll
Yeah.
say that awkward thing, like the nurse was trying to explain to me, and like you so
Mhm.
beautifully and lovingly said, that's all that they have to give. And some of it may be out of complete ignorance as to what to say or how to craft it in such a way that it can be healing and
Mhm.
acknowledging. And I mean, we have to acknowledge that when you go to, I just went yesterday to the store, and my daughter wanted to buy a Mother's Day card for my mother, and
Mhm.
of course, we waited too late, and the store was like completely sold out of Mother's Day cards. But there is no Mother's Day card that says, I recognize the loss you've experienced. So there's like a
Mhm.
grief section, hope you get better
Mhm.
section, and
Mhm.
Mother's Day section. So as a
Mhm.
society, we really haven't figured out a way to honor those moms, because we're talking about infant and maternity loss, but Natalie hit it on the head as well. Like I began to think about the moms who have lost older children.
Yeah.
How do we celebrate them as well?
Mhm.
Most specifically, I'm talking a little bit more about infant and maternity loss because, one, I've experienced it. Two, Natalie gave you the statistics, I'm tongue tied, about one in
Mhm.
four, but even more so for women of color. Even
Yeah.
more so from women of color, we have higher rates of infant and maternity loss. Not just higher rates of infant and maternity loss, but actually of the mother passing away during childbirth. So this is such a
Mhm.
poignant conversation about how the healthcare industry cares for us. And if we're unable to get what we need from the healthcare industry, we need to talk to people like Natalie to begin to think about different forms of therapy to prepare our minds and our wombs to give birth again. Whether, like she said,
Mhm.
whether it's to give birth to another child or to give birth to what the other dreams and aspirations that you have for your life. It's very important that we have this conversation. And so I'm just so full. I'm catching so much of this great information on this. I want to check our comment section.
Mhm.
Somebody said, I love Mother's Day. It gives hope, but it also makes me sad. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sometimes people say things unintentionally that affects me, but I pray silently. That's so important too, because sometimes even
Mhm.
as moms who've experienced this, sometimes we try to sort of belittle the experience or kind of downplay is better, downplay the experience to make other people comfortable. Yesterday I was in
Mhm.
a conversation with a mom who I know experienced an infant maternity loss, and she said, well, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And
Mhm.
I was kind of in a space where I wanted to honor the fact that you're a mom, but maybe that's the way she is processing her loss.
Yeah.
So what's Natalie, makes me want to ask a question.
Mhm.
Mom to mom who've experienced the loss, how can we support each other? Of course, join the Facebook group. Of course, get the
Mhm.
therapy. But on Mother's Day, how can we, from mom to mom, celebrate
Mhm.
each other's experiences? What do you think?
Yeah. I think a part of it is giving each other grace. Um, and so like you mentioned the woman who was saying, all the mothers out there. And so it would be acknowledging her, like you're a mom too.
Yeah,
You're a mom too. Your experience might be different, but you're a mom too.
absolutely.
So just showing each other with that love and that support and that grace. And what I have found is that, when women come together or people who have experienced, who have this shared experience, when we come together, there's just this strength in our unity that is different from when someone who hasn't had that experience and looks outside, at us. There's just this like shared strength in that. So I think it's beautiful when you know that there's someone who has gone through a similar experience, just find a way to honor them or reach out to them and let them know that you see them and you're supporting them.
Absolutely. And you said that so beautifully. Someone comments about their best friend just lost their mom in March. And I'm so sorry for that person's loss, especially in light of what's happening in the world, because our grieving process is a bit stunted and or abbreviated, if you will, because a lot of times people want to be able to have ceremonies and things, memorials and things like that to celebrate that person's life. And unfortunately, because of what's happening, in order to keep us safe, a lot of us are not able to come together as a family to celebrate the losses. And so if it is you've lost your mom or you've lost a child, like Natalie said, you have to decide how you want to honor them, how you, like, what space is that in? She said she talked about writing a letter, drinking a cup of tea, have somewhat get the Mother's Day treatment, you know, have somebody make some breakfast. I'm on my way to Natalie's house on Mother's Day. So I can get some of that Mother's Day breakfast. Or I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who had multiple losses, and she said that she's doing a balloon release. So there's a lot of different ways that we can honor the lives of the children that are no longer with us, or the lives of the mothers, because someone mentioned about their mom passing away. Or you can have something made. I actually wanted to show this bracelet. This is bracelets actually from another mom who experienced the loss. She'd ordered the bracelet. This is a beautiful story. She ordered the bracelet for herself, and she found out that my husband and I had experienced the loss on the day the bracelet arrived. And she said, this bracelet was meant for you. And so I really felt like that was such a beautiful thing for it to be a space where she had her own trauma, her own history of trying to deal with the grief and the loss, but she was able to pay it forward. And so that's another reason why I really, really love the work that Natalie does, because it's okay for us to experience grief and loss and do it privately. However, I think it takes a great deal of bravery to do it publicly and then to pass it on. So to do it publicly and to pass it on. And I like how Natalie said, give yourself some grace. Give grace to others, but also give grace to yourself. And maybe you can speak a little to this, Natalie, as well, because I'm learning. It's been 5 years since my loss, and the conversation I had with my girlfriend on the other day, she said, Jessica, this is the first time I've heard you say her name. And I was like, oh my goodness, you know, like, and I was excited, but then I was beating myself up because I was like, I didn't say her name, but the truth of the matter, I was like, okay, this is a grief and loss process. So we can honor and just learning how to even say, I have 2 children. And one of the first things that happens is that when I say that, people say, well, how old are they? Because they're excited for me to say that. I say I have a 9-year-old, and my youngest would have been 4 this year. And so then they go, oh, I'm so sorry. And I find myself trying to heal them instead of saying, you know, I appreciate that. You know, thanks for saying that. So, Natalie, what are some just other than, well, first of all, I want to give everybody their homework assignment before I forget it. Your homework assignment is to head over to Natalie's page, and you want to follow Natalie's page. You want to join her Facebook group. You want to make sure you listen and download her podcasts. You want to make sure you get that blog newsletter. Why? Because this is the time for us to be supportive. She talked about that the support group. So whether you need the support group or you can be a member of somebody's support group, the information that she's giving is vital. So that's your homework assignment. When you leave here, if you missed any part of this conversation, reach out to me, Jessica Canty, or Swag Her Magazine, so that we could connect you with Natalie, or you can directly connect with them. Natalie, is there, before I forget, because this is some good conversation. I can't believe we're almost into the 40-minute section. Wow. I want to make sure if there's any announcements that you may have for the community.
Yeah, so I put together a gift for Mother's Day.
Yay!
If there is anyone who, you know, you're worrying whether or not you're going to be acknowledged, or if you just know that you're a mother and you want to honor yourself, then I put together a gift You can head over to my page. You'll see the very first link within my bio. It's Grab Your Mother's Day Gift. You'll sign up to receive that gift, and it will be in your inbox Sunday morning on Mother's Day. And I'll tell you what the gifts are. I'll give you a little sneak peek. I have created a Mother's Day blessing. So I love to affirm love and joy and peace and strength people's lives. And so that is me in my voice affirming that over your life. And then the second part of the gift is a guided meditation to help you to feel deep inner peace and deep calm in this like interesting world that we're living in, to put it lightly. So, yeah, that's my gift to you. And of course, you can connect with me in my private Facebook group. It's called The Birth Warriors, just a space where you can be supported and connect with other, have a birth warrior tribe and have me support you in any way that I can. And of course, I lead the coaching program, Coaching for Birth Warriors. So if you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to book a call with me, which is also in the link in my bio. And we'll talk about if that program is right for you and how we could work together in that.
Absolutely. And you know what? As you're speaking, you're actually answering the question. Someone has said, what's the name of the Facebook group? We just put
All
that in
right,
the chat.
perfect.
It's the Birth
The Birth
Warriors.
Warriors.
So
Yeah.
that's your homework. You need to head over there. And why don't you bring a friend with you? Because like Natalie said, 1 in 4 women have experienced this. And you know, Natalie, it's so interesting because until I experienced it, I didn't realize how many people around me experienced it. You
Nice.
know? I got back to work and two of my team members had experienced it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so it's absolutely correct with that statistic. And so until
Mhm.
we begin to have the conversation, we can't change the taboo hush hush nature of it. We can't make
Mhm.
a systematic change that we need to in the medical field, because
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that each of us who've experienced infant and maternity loss had different experience with medical providers.
Mhm.
And so how do we help those providers? It's so interesting also that this week we celebrated nurses. And so how do
Mhm.
we incorporate the medical field into helping us in that healing process? They should be giving referrals to Natalie's group, to Natalie's one-on-one coaching. I'm saying that, with a smile on face, because it's the truth. You may go home with the physical things that you need to do to take care of your body, but the
Mhm.
emotional piece is something that's kind of hard to navigate. And if you don't have somebody to help you to be able to go back to handle the physical, to be able to go back to handle the emotional,
Exactly.
that could be that much more challenging. I see you nodding your head, Natalie. Why are you nodding your head? What's connecting with you?
No, I just love that you said that
Uh-huh.
because, after a loss, let's say that, you needed stitches for whatever, you get the medicine and then you're sent home. They tell you, oh, in 6 weeks you should be fine. No, it might take years. In years, you're still not fine if you don't have the tools to process and if you don't have the support to release, you know? And the thing that is interesting about trauma is that it touches all aspects of your life. You know
Yeah.
why? Because it touches you at your core. The
Yeah.
reason why we hold on to trauma, it's like our brain reminding us, unless this thing can become something that is safe, I will never allow myself to be at risk. I will never allow myself to be open into the world unless I know how to protect myself. And so that's why there is fear around become pregnant again, because how do you prevent it? And if you go through another loss, how do you have the support that you need to deal with that experience? You might be finding that there are challenges in your relationship. And so it's all of these, there might be challenges at work. You might have lost friendships. There are all of these like ripple domino effects that occur, and if you don't know how to save yourself from that, you won't enter into that experience again. But what that means is that you're limiting your life. Because for people, and this is another piece that I'm working on the invisible emotional wounds and how they affect our lives. And so there are women who they have lost their partner. There's one person I'm working with now, and the relationship didn't work out, but there is fear about entering into another relationship. So what does that mean? It means that you're holding yourself back from love. And so while on the one hand, it's like, oh, like I had this pregnancy loss or, this infant loss several years ago or by with whatever timeline, but how is it affecting the other aspects of your life? And do you want to live a life that's limiting, or do you want to heal the pain and expand your life? So that's
Yeah.
the choice that you have. And the reason why people aren't able to heal the pain is they don't have the support that they need. They don't have the tools they need. Once you have a guide, then you're good. You just need to know how to do the thing and do it. And
Yeah.
have the support and the love around you while you're doing it, while you're going through the hurt. That's it. That's what healing is.
Absolutely. And as you're speaking, a couple things came to mind, but along with some notes that came in, that you should be, it says, Natalie, you should be a resource at the OBGY offices nationally and internationally. I second that. I second that. Absolutely. I'm kind of laughing about it only because, or I'm being giddy about it because it's so very true that sometimes the doctors and things like that may not have the knowledge to help us. And so
Or
it's
the
important to
capacity,
say again.
the knowledge or the time.
Knowledge,
You see
time,
your
and
doctor
or
for 15
empathy.
minutes.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
absolutely. Now, I have to say that the medical staff that helped me and my family through this process, I felt like they did the very best that they could. But I can just remember a doctor, she kept using the word demise, and it
Mhm.
like, and even now when I hear that word, it's a trauma trigger for me. And I
Yeah.
really wonder, like, who is it that's helping teaching them? Who
Mhm.
is helping the people who heard that have to go home, like moms like me?
Mhm.
Who's helping those moms? And it's something that's very important to talk about. And I really like that Natalie was saying we have to heal those traumas because unfortunately it can be a generational trauma that's passed down from generation to generation if we don't address it.
Mhm.
I'll be very
Mhm.
transparent. Infant and maternity loss is very prevalent in my family. I'm probably, from my knowledge, I'm probably about the fourth generation who's
Yeah.
experienced that. And I just happen to be a mom who has a daughter. So that's something that's a lingering thing in my mind. So I know I'm going to have to address that so that when my
Mhm.
daughter is ready to become a mom, I can be as happy as I want to be for her. I don't have to approach that with fear. So
Mhm.
that's an example of what Natalie's talking about. It's like sometimes we don't see that it's making us live an abbreviated version of our lives, or this a travel size version of who we could be because we're
Right.
not addressing that trauma.
Right.
And so you're getting so much love on this side. Oh, this is essential to women's health. Absolutely. See, Natalie, we need to get you in Women's Health Magazine because that's the next step. In Women's Health Magazine. All right. Well, Natalie, this again, I feel like this is just the beginning of the conversation because one, I didn't realize, and I don't know if you knew this, the Sunday before Mother's Day is actually the Sunday that some have chosen for moms who've experienced it. And I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Again, and I guess until you become a mom, this is information that you just don't know, or that is
Yeah.
celebrated in October, or things like that. And
Mhm.
so that's why you need a coach. That's why you need
Mhm.
someone to help guide you through that process. This is you're not putting a dollar sign on your trauma. What we're doing is we're giving you the avenue and the space to take care of yourself, because unfortunately some of us will find unhealthy coping techniques that will reverse our progress towards that whole grief in a healthy fashion. So I really want you all to not to see this as a gift to yourself. First of all, Natalie's giving you a gift. She's giving you a gift of the Mother's Day gift. So you want to make sure you go check that out. But you also want to see this as I'm sorry, I saw a note come in. I have a Band-Aid on my wounds. My goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Most
A
of us
lot of
do.
you're not
Most
alone
people
in that.
do. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Exactly.
Natalie. What were you saying?
I was just
Yeah,
affirming that most people do.
yeah, yeah. And we're talking about a wound that a Band-Aid is not going to heal. And so you
Mhm.
need to get in a tribe of people who've experienced it. So you want to head over to Birth Warriors on Facebook, and you need to get your individual help and talk. This book will call with Natalie to see what it is that she provides and what are your unique experiences so that she can help coach you through that experience. And so I also want to kind of leave on one, I want to give you an opportunity to give parting thoughts. And then there was something you said I want to emphasize to kind of wrap up our conversation. So what are your parting thoughts for the community today?
There's so much. It's hard
Yeah.
to like wrap it up.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I would go back to this idea of giving yourself grace.
Mm.
Um, we can look at loss or any difficult experience in a number of ways, and I have gone through the entire cycle. I've gone through this phase of, why is my life so painful? Why are all of these things happening in my life? Like, God, what the hell is happening? This is not what you and I agreed on. Like, you must not have been reading my life plan correctly enough because you haven't got this right. So I went through that phase, and I went through the phase of acceptance, and I also went through the phase of creating meaning out of my experience.
Oh.
And I like differentiating between meaning and reason because we often don't know why something happened. We often don't have a reason. I remember when my doctor said, your body's healthy. We don't know why you had this loss. I was so upset because I wanted to know why. I wanted to be able to pin it on a thing so that I could solve for that thing the next time. But we're often left without the reason. So we just have to leave it to, maybe this is a part of the plan. Maybe this is a part of my experience. But whether or not we get to a yes there, we can make the decision that this experience is going to lead to good. This
Mm.
experience is going to lead to a life of power. This experience is going to lead to a life of joy and strength. And so you get to decide what that looks like.
Yeah.
The experience is what the experience is, and you get to decide what do you transform this experience into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I almost don't even want to say anything after that because you just summarized that so very beautifully. But I do have to make the announcement that I want to emphasize what Natalie talked about, how this impacts every aspect of your life. So if you are pursuing a business, if you are pursuing your career, if you're pursuing some other goal, some other life goal, until you deal with the trauma of that, all of those goals are going to be impacted. And you may find yourself, why is this not working quite as fast as I wanted to go? Why am I feeling like I'm just not as fulfilled, and we have to be able to deal with our traumas to be able to feel more fulfilled in our lives. And so one of the things I do work with my clients now, Natalie is dealing with healing your womb and preparing your life to give birth to miraculous things, whether it be a child or your next life goal. I help specifically with career goals, but one of the things, the cross section is that when I work with the people I work with, oftentimes I can create this whole wonderful plan. I can redo your resume for you, get you ready for your interview, but there's something that's making you stuck. And it's like, you may be experiencing imposter syndrome. And at the root of it is undealt with trauma. So that's another reason why I felt like this conversation was so very poignant, is that if you're pursuing your life goals, you want to get connected with someone who can help you take care of that. And so if you're ready to heal, if you're ready to honor, and like Natalie said, give yourself grace. Today's the day. Don't wait any longer. Connect with Natalie. If you're ready to pursue your dream career, don't wait any longer. It's time to connect with me. Head over to jessicacanty.com. Send me your resume to jessicacanty@jessicacanty.com. And then make sure you tell Swag Her Magazine thank you. I'm going to tell Swag Her Magazine thank you. Thank you for an opportunity to have a real and genuine heart-to-heart conversation. There's not many platforms that would allow us to talk about a common experience for women, and then most specifically women of color. There are not very many platforms that we can get on and talk about this, especially in the spaces that we need to talk about it in, like the medical field, like giving birth to a new generation, to a new future. So I want to say thank you all for joining us. Natalie, I know this is not the last time we're going to converse about this subject. I can't wait. I'm going to go ahead and sign up for that Mother's Day gifts. I hope that you all are going to as well. And you can even make sure that you send an email, put in the email address of a mom that you know who's experiencing it. That's a beautiful gift too.
Yes.
Because she might not know how to say, I need that. So go ahead
Yeah.
and put her email on that. How beautiful that would be on Sunday morning when she wakes up, and she may not hear Happy Mother's Day from anybody else, but because you thought of her, she did. So you want to
Yeah.
make sure you do that. All right, Natalie. And someone said, thank you, Swagger Magazine. I thank you too, Swagger Magazine.
Thank you
All right,
all.
Natalie. Thank you so much for this opportunity. You guys can head over to YouTube to see the replay, and you want to watch that. All right, dear. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Love you all.
Bye.